Hello, everybody, and welcome to this very special episode of Play by Play, the wrestling podcast with myself, Aatif Nawaz. This is episode 25. It's a very special episode because I'm going to be giving you my instant reaction to WrestleMania 31, which just went off our TV screens or our laptop screens or our tablet screens, whatever you're watching it on. About 20 minutes ago. So this is my instant reaction 20 minutes after the dust has settled on WrestleMania. Straight off the bat, I need to tell you there's going to be spoilers in this podcast. So if you still haven't seen WrestleMania, I highly recommend that you close this window right now. Stop listening, because I'm about to spoil all the results for you to WrestleMania. And I'm going to start right at the top. It was a very eventful WrestleMania, and it had a shocking build-up. A lot of fans expressed their annoyance with the way the WrestleMania event this year was built up. A lot of people said because it's on the network, they don't feel as much proactivity maybe to try and sell the event to fans and casual fans because they don't need to sell it as a pay-per-view necessarily. But even so, I think it was a really good show, and it had a really interesting ending. And let's go straight to the ending, okay? The main event, of course, was Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. Intensely physical match. A lot of suplexes happening there. Brock Lesnar getting in some extraordinary offense, which only he can really execute in the way that he does, and it was incredible. It built to a crescendo, that match. Even Roman Reigns, even though he was being booed out of the building, which was to be expected, I'm sure, despite that, Roman Reigns, I think, put in a very reasonable performance, and the way the match was booked protected both him and Brock Lesnar, because the much touted and the much eagerly anticipated Money in the Bank cash-in happened. Seth Rollins comes to the center with all sorts of F5s and Superman punches having taken place, loads of suplexes all over the place. So Seth Rollins comes into the arena, makes it a triple threat match with his Money in the Bank contract, gets his curb stomps in on both wrestlers, in the end pins Roman Reigns and wins his first WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Wow, shocking ending. It was turning into a really absorbing main event match as well. And then Seth Rollins' emergence made it even more engaging. I think that was a good ending, certainly for the live crowd. I think if Roman Reigns would have won that match, and I know they've been building to this for a very, very long time, the crowd would have left the event flat, which wouldn't have been fair, really, because the event in general was good. I liked the booking of Seth Rollins, chucking him straight into the main event picture, the main man, really, with the World Championship. You protect Brock Lesnar because he doesn't have to take the pinfall, and I guess you keep him happy as well because he's just signed that contract extension, and he's going to be a natural baby face. He's going to be a natural good guy. So, you don't necessarily want to wind him up just yet. Anyway, it was a fantastic main event. I was perfectly pleased with that. I was sitting on the edge of my seat thinking inevitably Roman Reigns is going to make a comeback into this match, and I'm going to feel really flat when he gets his win at the end. But credit to WWE. They booked that match superbly. And in general, I think they booked the night really well as well. Some other superb matches happening. The Undertaker and Bray Wyatt. Great match that was as well. Very slow-paced, very methodical. Undertaker's clearly, obviously, he's been around for a long time. He's no spring chicken, but equally, I think he put in a very, very good performance. It was all about the pathos, the timing, the expressions. There was a lot of drama happening in that match, very visual. Bray Wyatt did his bit as well. I think he was elevated instantly just by his involvement in that match. So it was very, very well done. And I think it was the right result. Bray Wyatt lost absolutely nothing by losing that match. He's just been elevated by his association with The Undertaker, and WWE have kept that draw in The Undertaker. The Undertaker is going to be very important to WWE next year, of course, when they try and sell 100,000 plus seats for WrestleMania 32 or whatever it is they call it next year, because they don't like numbers anymore. Anyway, good match. Very pleased with that. And I've got to say, The Undertaker looked good as well. I mean, last year he looked like he looked very weak, and I don't know if a lot of that was the concussion, or I don't know if that was because he knew he was going to do the honors and it was going to be the end of the streak. Maybe he was feeling emotional, but he looked really good. He looked in reasonable physical shape, especially with all the rumors that have been going around and those pictures that have been going around of The Undertaker. So he looked really good. Bray Wyatt put in a superb performance, a fantastic match. I was pleased with that. One thing I wasn't as pleased with at the event, Rusev versus John Cena. Now, you could tell from the build-up, it was very, pro-American. It was all about defending the honor of America, and you knew John Cena was going to come out on top, really which is a fair result. But even so, I think they've wasted an opportunity here with Rusev. They built him up to be this indestructible heel. He was getting so much heat. He'd come in, he played his part to perfection as this brute guy, this really strong Bulgarian / Russian dude. And they didn't bury him in that match, but they took a lot of momentum away from him. And it's going to be interesting to see how Rusev comes back from that. I guess John Cena winning the US Championship and, of course, Daniel Bryan winning the Intercontinental Championship means they're going to be headlining some of these house shows. They're probably going to move to a double house show structure, which is good. I think the belts being in prominence is going to be a good thing. John Cena holding any championship, any second-tier championship like the US Championship is probably a good thing for that championship. So I can deal with that result. I think it could have been, they could have gone in different directions, but I think all things considered, not the worst thing in the world. And certainly that opening ladder match, we just mentioned Daniel Bryan being crowned the new Intercontinental Champion. I like the way WWE framed that story. I, like lots of people, wanted to see Daniel Bryan in the main event against Brock Lesnar. They didn't want to do it that way, but I think they made a fair compromise with the fans. They gave Bryan the Intercontinental Championship. They let him open WrestleMania. He had a great moment, and then he had that lovely backstage skit where he was endorsed by all these great superstars, and it started with Pat Patterson, Ric Flair was there, and Roddy Piper was there, and Ricky Steamboat was there, Ron Simmons was there, my favorite, Bret the Hitman Hart was there as well. It was so great to see all these greats endorsing Daniel Bryan, and it didn't look like a young superstar being endorsed. It looked like equals, really. So well done, Daniel Bryan. I look forward to seeing how WWE continue to treat him and the Intercontinental Championship. I'm hoping he won't have to job in a whole bunch of non-title matches like his predecessors had to, but that's definitely a good thing. I think we're going to see some great Intercontinental Championship matches over the next 6, 9, maybe even 12 months. Let's see how long he holds on to the championship. So that was a brilliant match. Now, one of the most memorable moments of this pay-per-view was when The Rock got into the ring where he made a surprise appearance in a segment where Triple H and Stephanie were doing their heelish antics. They were doing their boasting business, right? They were healing on the fans. The Rock comes in and has a bit of banter with Triple H, and then Stephanie eventually smacks him in the face. And she taunts him, "You're not going to hit a woman, are you?" And of course, in present day WWE television, you very rarely see intergender violence, which is fine, which is probably a good thing. So unexpectedly, The Rock goes into the crowd and pulls out Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey, UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion, international box office sensation. She was in one of the Expendables movies as well, so she's quickly turning into a household name, a massive box office attraction as well. So he pulls her out of the crowd, he brings her into the ring. She had a real star presence there, and Stephanie, for her part, healed it up beautifully. I was slightly, there was a beautiful moment. It was a little bit slow, that whole section, but I think The Rock wanted to milk the moment, which is fine. Absolutely nothing wrong with milking that moment. It was really, really good. It was a very cool moment. Ronda Rousey in the middle with Stephanie McMahon. Triple H is in the mix. The Rock is in the mix. I couldn't help but thinking, though, if The Rock hadn't turned up at the Royal Rumble, that WrestleMania appearance might have felt even more special. But anyway, bygones are bygones, or let's let bygones be bygones. So anyway, that was a really cool moment. And then in the end, Ronda Rousey put her in a weird-looking arm bar thing, which I think will mean more to mixed martial artists than WWE fans. This is the trouble when you mix up MMA fighters and WWE wrestlers, because WWE wrestling moves are designed to look quite engaging. And sure, they're trying to look realistic as well, but really it's about the look, how dynamic it is. I don't think an F5 would do as much damage as a Kimura lock in real life, but what looks cooler, Anyway, so Ronda Rousey did the armbar thing. She chucked Stephanie out. They have a nice little moment, but I was just left wanting more. And maybe that was the plan. Now, I've got to tell you, Jim Ross made an appearance on Taz's podcast, the Human Podcasting Machine, and he said for WrestleMania 32, he would like to see Ronda Rousey in the main event against Stephanie McMahon. And obviously, it wouldn't be a straight wrestling match. There'd be loads of things that happen in the build-up. You'd stack the deck against Ronda Rousey. So Jim Ross kind of called it. And he assures us he has absolutely nothing to do with the booking team these days. So he's just got a great mind for the business, and I know we already knew that, but it's been reaffirmed now. So well done, Jim Ross. I tipped my hat to you, sir. Another cool moment earlier on in the show, it was surprisingly early on in the show, was the Triple H versus Sting match. I think they did really well. Sting looked quite good. I wasn't happy with the end result, but there were definitely some cool moments there. So Sting has the upper hand, and then D-Generation X do a run-in, and then to neutralize D-Generation X, the NWO do a run-in. And it was kind of a cool moment, aside from the fact that there's a lot of overlap between the NWO and DX members, like a lot of those people, like X-Pac, for example, he's been in both. So, how do you differentiate between the two? I'm not sure. Now, Shawn Michaels got the crucial moment, which is the super kick to Sting, which ultimately gave Triple H enough momentum to build a couple of illegal moves and get the win over Sting. I don't know what the point was of building up Sting for a whole year, only to have him jobbed Triple H at WrestleMania. I don't know. I don't know who wins out of that. I don't know what the point of that was. I don't know if we're going to see Sting again on WWE television. I don't know how he feels about the whole thing. But hey, I think he put in a very reasonable performance at WrestleMania. I was happy with that. Again, I'm just dumbfounded by the way they booked it, but I can't hold too many things against them. They did a reasonably good job. The Divas match was fine as well. I think the pacing of it was a bit awkward because there was a long musical segment at WrestleMania. And I mean, I'm not a fan. I guess there are probably some fans of the musical segments at WrestleMania, but I think it's WWE trying to be a bit more like the Super Bowl, trying to incorporate that big halftime performance. But you can tell most fans are just kind of waiting for it to be over and get into the match. And it takes a lot of momentum away from the show. You can tell because the Divas match, I know it's supposed to be a cool down match anyway, but the crowd is already cool. So you send the Divas down, they get barely any reaction. And Paige was doing all of her mannerisms, which have got a reaction from so many crowds in the States and around the world, but it didn't really work out for her this time around. I think the scheduling has to accept a lot of blame for that, for sure. So that was probably one of the weaker matches on the show. I was a little bit worried they were running away with time, but they managed to get that Cena, Undertaker, and Lesnar match in reasonable time. That ladder match to open the show was absolutely superb. It was fantastic. Sting versus Triple H, again, not happy with the ending, but it had those iconic moments. So we can give that a pass. Divas match was, I guess, I know there was this whole give Divas a chance movement, but let's be realistic about what we can expect to happen in the women's division on WWE television until, of course, we see some of these NXT people transition. Speaking of NXT, Hideo Itami made his debut on the main roster. He was part of the Battle Royal, which happened on the pre-show. So I'm sure that took a lot of people by surprise. The Battle Royal, the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, it's got so much hype on television, on Raw and SmackDown, yet it only made the pre-show on WrestleMania. I'm sure they were gutted, everybody. I think they missed an opportunity with the result of that match as well. The Big Show wins. I guess it was a sentimental win, but I don't know what the Big Show gains from winning a Battle Royal of that level, because he goes from, what does he gain? He's already won all the championships. He has all the accolades. It's not going to refresh his career. That little crescendo towards the end where Mizdow finally turned on the Miz, and they finally had that little breakup rockers moment. But again, it was kind of overshadowed by the result of the match, so it was lost in the fuddle there. I think the WWE probably didn't have their eye on the ball with that match. They had so much else to worry about during the show. So I guess that's what they were thinking about. They've definitely missed an opportunity there. Mizdow winning that Battle Royal could have been something very, very special. The tag team title match on the pre-show as well was an excellent match. You got a feel for Cesaro, Kid, the Usos, the New Day. They all obviously wanted to be a part of that main show so badly. They couldn't in the end. There's only a finite amount of time once you've given those extended talking segments and musical segments their time. So even on a 4-hour show, you need to have 2 of the advertised matches on the pre-shows. Go figure. So I know I sound like I'm complaining. It was a good match, and it deserved to be on the main show. But overall, when I consider how dull the build up to this WrestleMania was, when I consider how little momentum Roman Reigns had behind him going into this main event, when I consider how angry WWE fans were after the Royal Rumble, after the mistreatment of Daniel Bryan, and when I look at this event and how they managed to achieve what they managed to achieve, I can't complain. I'm reasonably happy with that. And of course, I completely forget to mention the Seth Rollins and Randy Orton match, which was what it was. Randy Orton had a fantastic spot to finish the match, but it was kind of buried in people's memories. I mean, there you go. And then he missed the match out altogether. But the lasting image of that pay-per-view will definitely be Seth Rollins cashing in his Money in the Bank, beginning his reign, his first reign as WWE World Heavyweight Champion. Where does that leave Brock Lesnar? Where does that leave Roman Reigns? It all builds and all will be revealed on the most exciting Raw of the year, the Raw the day after WrestleMania. People always talk about it. Some people look forward to that more than WrestleMania itself. So I think there's a lot to look forward to, a lot to get excited about with the coming year. Slightly worried about the heel roster of WWE. They managed to, I mean, Bray Wyatt took a loss, Rusev took a loss. Who are the next top heels going to be? I guess they've got Seth Rollins in that top heel spot now as world champion. Who are the faces that are going to challenge him going to be? So there's loads of potential possibilities, loads of things up in the air. I'm excited about it going forward. But I was very pleased with WrestleMania. We got to see all of our old favorites. Hulk Hogan was there. Kevin Nash was there. They did the Hall of Fame thing. Bret the Hitman Hart, Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels, New Age Outlaws, Scott Hall. They were all there. X-Pac. And we got to see some of our favorite wrestlers all under one roof again, which you don't often get to. So that WrestleMania magic was definitely there. And hey, one thing I should definitely mention is the spectacle of it. The visual of WrestleMania was absolutely superb. It just looked very, very cool in that open air stadium with daylight. You know, it's very rare to see wrestling in daylight nowadays, but I thought that was an amazing visual. Not since WrestleMania 9 really have I seen something that was that dynamic from the WWE. So well done on the production of the event. Very, very happy with that. I look forward to how WWE move forward with the results of this pay-per-view, but I'm generally very satisfied. As I say, I thought the pay-per-view was going to end on a sour note. I thought Roman Reigns was going to walk away with the World Heavyweight Championship to a ton of boos from that crowd, but WWE, credit to them, found a solution that made everybody happy, and that was Seth Rollins winning the championship. That is about it, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back with another episode of Play-by-Play soon. We don't do it daily anymore because it's impossible to maintain, but we do drop in periodic episodes. We might come in before the next pay-per-view. We might come in if something interesting happens on Raw that piques our interest, but we'll come back soon. But keep those tweets coming. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at PlayByPlay123. Like us on Facebook. It's Play-by-Play Wrestling. Find us on there. We always post pictures and interviews. Make sure you check out some of our friends at eWrestlingNews.com and TopRopePress.com as well. And if you're looking for daily wrestling podcasts, I recommend the Daily Squash. It's a fantastic podcast. It's called the WTTV Daily Squash. It's hosted by Ben Spindler, and he's absolutely fantastic. So if you're looking for your daily podcast fix, make sure you check those guys out. But keep an eye out. Subscribe to this YouTube channel so you never have to miss one of our podcasts. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed WrestleMania as much as I did. I hope you got that satisfying feeling that I have right now. Until then, thank you so much for joining me. My name is Aatif Nawaz, and you've been listening to Play by Play, the Wrestling Podcast.